there's a portal within you opening. It's cosmic. And for anyone to think that they have authority over that process that's happening within your body is like insane to me.
Welcome back to the Sensible Mama podcast. I am Paulina Westcott, your host. Very excited to be with you today. My guest is Michaela Lee. She is with Inner Sanctum Birthkeeping, and I am so excited for our conversation today. I found you on Instagram. There was one particular post where you were talking about the industrialization of birth, and I was like, she's my girl. I need to have a conversation with her. We're going to have a lot to talk about. So yes, please introduce yourself, tell the fine people, what does it mean to be a birth keeper, and then we'll just dive in.
Okay, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here. I just feel so lit up by just having conversations with women, so this is great. But yeah, like you said, hi everyone, my name is Michaela Lee. I am a registered nurse turned sovereign birth keeper. So I went through nursing school, got my LPN and then my RN license. But when I was going through the obstetric section and even throughout clinicals, I just found that so much of it was focused on managing women and trying to manage birth. And I have always viewed birth, pregnancy, conception, death too as just really sacred experiences and really like rites of initiation. That every single human being should ideally have honored. And so I wanted to be a nurse midwife. I didn't end up taking that route because of what I saw in nursing school. So I just stuck with my RN license. And then I, after a few years, well, more than a few years, about 8 years working in the system, I decided that I still did want to serve mothers and babies. I just wanted to do it outside of the system. So I could actually, serve mothers and not be dictated by my license and the state. So I want mothers telling me what they need in birth, not the state telling me how I can serve. So it's kind of a hot take. It's not totally normal, but you did ask me, to just explain what a birth keeper is. So the way that I see it is, for most of history, we, like women going into birth, have had other women supporting us. Birth is totally a woman's thing. And so basically what a birth keeper is, I'm not a medical professional. I have no interest in that. It's very much a more, I could get so like esoteric talking about this. But really, I guess I'll put it as simply as possible. I'm not licensed. I serve women through, birth education. Really, if they want me to be there to support them during their births, I will be there. And then postpartum, it's really just like so focused on supporting and holding the mother and walking with her on this really, really sacred journey. And I've found that I am able to connect with women through serving them in this way so much more deeply than I ever could working within the system. Because this way it's, just a more holistic way of having relationship and community with other women, because it's not just focused on the physical, like pregnancy and birth and postpartum, all of this, like the physical. It's like, holistic, like we're mind, body, soul, spirit. And so all of those things need to be nourished too. I think like when we in modern society, I guess, when we think about, or what we're taught about, pregnancy, birth, postpartum, it's all really, really physical. And like, focusing on like the actual physical nourishment of the mother and the family unit and the baby is so important. But if the other aspects are lost, there's a longing for that, if that makes sense.
I completely agree. No, absolutely. So I I walked a path that sort of teetered on me ending up in a medical birth. I ended up having both of my kids at home, and I'm eternally grateful for having made that decision. But it was right at the end of my third trimester with my first kid where I started feeling that it was like a dissonance between what was happening with me and how I was being treated. And then the threats of, this is what we're gonna have to do to you, and you're going to have to this, and you need to that, and we're not gonna let you go past a certain point. And I was like everything in my being was like, it was like jarring, the language that was being used, where I'm like, this isn't, I'm not supposed to be being allowed to birth. I'm not giving them, they're not supposed to give me permission to do things with my body and this baby that I'm growing inside me. Like, this is my experience. This is my child's experience. Who made them my boss, right? Like, this is so unnatural. And I think for a lot of women, they feel that, but they don't know what to do about it. Now, I had been toying with the idea of home birth, so it was like already in the corners of my mind, you know, kind of like percolating a little bit. And so I just dove in and I was like, good, we're doing a home birth, let's go. But I think a lot of women don't realize that there are options out there, and just because it's like how you're supposed to, which is this very silly idea, doesn't mean that you have to compromise with your own intuition, your own gut, your knowledge, your confidence, and like you speak about a lot, your sovereignty in childbirth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really interesting how, I mean, just within your story, there's just so many aspects of like ways that you were infantilized when this is like, there's a portal within you opening. It's cosmic. And for anyone to think that they have authority over that process that's happening within your body is like insane to me. It's almost kind of funny. I mean, just because it's so ridiculous. But yeah, I mean, it makes sense that, you know, you're hearing these words, you're going through this process, preparing for this rite of initiation, you know, from maiden into mother, and it would make sense that you're like asking, well, who are you to tell me what I can and cannot do? Yeah.
It was wild. So let's talk about it. Like, okay, let's pretend there's a mom out there who's listening. She is pregnant. Maybe she's gone to her obstetric appointment recently and they started, I don't know, threatening her with induction, or, you know, telling her she needs all these extra ultrasounds or stress tests or whatever, right? Like, and she's starting to feel like, no, everything is fine. If I would just be left to my own devices, I could birth this baby. Like, let's talk about this. What is that mother to do?
Yeah, I think one of the first things to really dive into is what is going on in the body, like in her body. And I'm just going to take a moment because there's so much here. So when women come to me in this kind of situation, the very first thing that I do is that we do together is dive into all of these stories, ideas, and beliefs about what birth actually is. That has got to be one of the most powerful parts of the process, with like just realizing what the options are, because what I have found is that there's a lot of beliefs that we carry, even if we don't say them out loud. And it's from, you know, it could come from hearing about our own births, our own birth stories, hearing about our grandmother's birth stories, and also like the cultural idea of like what birth is, you know, what we see in Hollywood. And beyond all that, you know, experiences are passed down in our DNA as well. Like, our, you know, our DNA is this whole like storage system. So there's like so much to unpack there. But really, so yeah, just looking at what the beliefs are about birth, and then also seeing what identity the woman is choosing in this experience in her pregnancy. So what I have found is, in my time in the medical system, it operates, and it's, you know, a very much fully functioning business because it operates within the victim triangle. Do you know what the victim triangle, or
No.
sorry, not the victim triangle,
Like
the drama triangle.
Business.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no. I mean,
Yeah.
I've heard of this, but let's go into it. Yeah.
Okay, so this is a tool that I use all the time in my own life. Kelly Brogan, in her book The Reclaimed Woman, calls it the triangle from hell, and I can attest. I've spent a lot of my life in the drama triangle. Okay, so I'll explain it really quick. So okay, so the drama triangle, there are 3 roles. The first role is victim. The second role is villain, and the third role is the hero. So what I've observed in the system, and with a woman who is in this kind of situation, oftentimes the victim is the patient. The villain is her own body, sometimes even her baby. The hero is always the doctors, nurses, the system. And so it is very, very easy to stay within this triangle. And it's just like a constant feedback loop until women are able to see what's going on, realize that they are not victims of their body, they're not victims of pregnancy or their baby, and they are the authority. You know, it's so, there's a lot there. Also, I would say that, you know, for a woman who is in like experiencing this kind of pushback, or like, you know, being told how they can and cannot birth, just realizing that there's always choice here. There's choice. And so I personally believe that our God-given free will is our superpower as human beings. We cannot access it if we do not know all of the choices that we have available. That's why so many people talk about how important informed consent is, and the true cost of, I mean, there's always going to be risk. You know, there's risk in every single decision that we make throughout our lives, like driving a car.
All the time, literally stepping down a set of stairs, walking outside, eating some food you could choke, but we don't know not eating.
I know there's always risk. So yeah, I guess just knowing what your choices are, and it's just very interesting because in our society, I know home birth is becoming a lot more popular, but you know, the go-to is, well, I just found out I'm pregnant. I took my pregnancy test. It came back positive. I'm going to make a doctor's appointment. And I'm not looking down on anyone who does that. I just question a lot. I question a lot of things. And this is all, you know, a relatively new development anyway, you know, like medicalized industrial birth is so new. It really is new in the whole history of things. But anyway, choice. Right. Choice. Yeah, I mean, really, really, I do think it comes down to identity work and just seeing if you're in the victim triangle or not. And then also exploring what are my actual options when it comes to like giving birth and what is actually aligned with my soul. How is my baby asking to be brought into the world? Like connect it, like really just like figuring out the alignment of all of this. Oh, there's so much here.
It's amazing because the fact of the matter is, and I'm like a broken record. I say this all the time. There is a time and a place for medical intervention. Like, there is a
Yes.
small amount of times where the mom is going to be like, no, something is wrong and I need medical help, because that can happen. Like you said, like nothing is without risk. It's not like, you know, it's not like we're going to promise you that if you have a home birth or a free birth or something like that, that everything is going to be fairies and rainbows and unicorns and sparkles, because that's just not how the world works, right?
Yeah.
But it is so true that this go-to, like, I don't know, again, is it Hollywood? Is it social media? Is it just the industry that is the medical system? At least in America, I think in most Western countries nowadays. Pregnancy test shows a plus or two lines, you call your OB, and it's just like a 1-2, like first this, then I do that. And for me, like, I fell into that. Like, I was like, okay, I'm going to call my OB. And in the back of my mind, there was this little voice that was like, you remember that one thing you heard about home births? That was kind of cool, right? And I was like, shh, 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 shh. That's weird, right? And then things kept going, and I was like, maybe watch some videos. And so I watched a couple videos, and I'm like, I'm not one of those people, right? Like, I'm not a hippie or whatever idea I had about home births. And but that voice in the back of my head wasn't just a voice in the back of my head. That was my intuition. That was like there was something spiritual about, between listening to the physical things that my body was telling me, because there is a physical aspect to it, you know, like being in tune with my body and my baby and understanding what's going on and knowing with full confidence without a doctor ever telling me that everything is fine, right? Like, I have a funny story I could tell about that, where there was one time where I was having really, really bad abdominal pain. This was probably in the early third trimester. I had just dreadful pain in my stomach, right? Which anytime is concerning, but when you're pregnant, the worst fears are the first to jump into my head. And so I was like, you know, I spent like half an hour going down into a spiral of what about, I need to call my doctor, I need to whatever. And I don't know how else to say this except on a spiritual level. I don't know if it was just me knowing it or if it was my baby communicating to me. I had this just intense calmness, and it was like, we're fine. We're fine. And I was like, okay. The pain was still there, but I was like, we're fine. We're totally fine. 10 minutes later, I farted. It was a really bad gas pain, and I was fine. Do you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
the first thing I went to was medical. You know what I mean? And had it not been for this, like, beginning, the roots forming of this, okay, I am the boss of this. I am in charge of my body. This isn't, you know, my doctor's not my boss in this endeavor. It was like the roots were already forming, and I kind of leaned into it, and I was like, okay, I can do this. Like, I'm actually confident in myself. I don't need somebody else to tell me. I don't require somebody to tell me how to poop, right? Like, nobody's standing there coaching me on how to breathe, which is keeping me alive, you know? Like, I'm capable of operating this thing, this piece of, you know, stuff that is my body. I know how it works. I can make it do things. Like, why is this natural phenomenon called birth any different? Why do we put it in this, like, crazy category as if our body is broken?
Yeah. We've totally been sold a lie that human beings are incredibly incapable of survival. I think we're so capable of so much more than we're led to believe. That's just like such a great story too, because you were able to, work through that, support yourself, this part of you that was terrified and wanted to call out for help, almost like this damsel in distress. And then you
Yeah,
come in, you were also like, there's this like, wise mother part, I guess we could call it, who's
sure.
like, let's just sit with this. Let's just trust. And like, there was confidence there, you know? Oh, yeah. Instinct. Oh my gosh. In
It's
the program,
incredible
oh,
what
go on.
instinct can do. Like
Mhm.
there's such a, how do I, it's an invalidation of a person's, I would say a woman's, but men are capable of this too, of just your own instincts are so powerful, right? Like, we've all experienced it, but we're all told, oh, that's just woo woo this, or, it's like some mystical thing. Oh, you believe in magic. No, it's not that I believe in magic. I believe in myself. I believe in
Mhm.
my own, ability to just know things. Like, that is a power that we have.
Mhm.
It doesn't have to be some, like, I didn't, there was nothing else involved. It's just, I know how to do this and I have confidence in myself. And you walk into a room and you get a funny feeling about someone, you're like, oh, I got to keep an eye on that person. That's instinct. Or maybe this isn't a good time to do so and so, I'm going to change my mind. And then you're like, wow, that was the best decision ever. That's instinct. Like, you got to lean into it, and you need to not invalidate yourself, because the world is going to do enough of that for you. It will invalidate your instincts every which way to Sunday. And you need to be like confident and grounded in your own calmness and your own certainty. And it's a lot easier said than done, but I think that comes with simply practice. Like, start with something silly. Start with something seemingly stupid. Like, I know a lot of women hold their pee, right? Like, my body is telling me I need to pee, and then they're like, no, I'm not going to listen to my body. Listen to your body. Lean into its instinct. Like, if it's saying, hey, I need to do a thing, go do a thing. And
Mhm.
then just like work up from there. Like, okay, my body's telling me it's thirsty, go give it some water. My body's telling me it needs sleep, don't push it, go to sleep. Like, something is wrong, go find out what's wrong. Nothing is wrong, don't let somebody tell you something is wrong. Like, really work on it. And it doesn't all happen at once, you know what I mean? But I think that it's a skill that, like you said, like, this is all new. All this medicalization is really, truly, in the history of things, very, very new. We were very quick to suddenly call it traditional, or, the normal. It's very funny to me, but it is all relatively new. And once upon a time, like you said, like, it was just women helping women through labor. It was just women going up to other women in their community saying, hey, I'm experiencing this discomfort. And they say, oh yeah, we all went through that too. Here's what we did to help. Here's a massage that can help your sciatic pain, or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, anyway, this, like you said, this damsel in distress, oh doctor, please save me.
Mhm.
You know, it's such a funny thing that we are so quick to call normal.
Mhm. Yeah. I just love how, yeah, you were just talking about instinct. And when I joined the program that I was trained in for this work called the Birth Mentor Institute, one of the tools that of self mastery that we were taught is called like the full body yes. And I when I first learned it, I was like, oh my gosh, have I felt this before? What does this feel like? And one of the ways that I started cultivating that and like trusting the signals that my body was giving me was in such simple day-to-day things, like what you shared about. I mean, yeah, like you feel like you need to go pee, go pee. You're thirsty. Okay, have your own back and get yourself a drink of water. But one of the most fun ways for me now is picking out outfits for myself and just
Oh,
looking at different fabrics and colors. And on different days, my body will literally feel lit up by looking at a certain like shirt or sweater or pair of pants. And it's just been a really, really fun, extremely repeatable and simple way for me to connect with myself, you know? Because then I put it on and I'm like, this is exactly what I am meant to wear today. And it's like the most mundane things
That's
can
so
become such
cool,
a
though.
deeply
That's
spiritual
amazing.
experience. Yeah, it's so fun.
But why not? Why not? Like, why not? Right?
Mhm. Yeah,
That's
agreed.
amazing.
Yeah.
So cool.
Something that is coming to mind right now is um a phrase that I don't know if you know of Sister Morningstar. She's a um traditional birth keeper too. Um and I've learned from her as well. She refers to modern women as being instinct injured. And
Oh,
I think that is, I love that term because it is so precise and like cuts straight to the point and really just brings to light that it is an injury, you know, and it's inflicted on us often in the womb, I would say. You know, it's like it can start in the womb, where our own mothers may have, you know, betrayed themselves, um, outsourced their authority, and even so, that journey is still sacred because it's still, you know, very much an invitation and a journey of reclamation. So, yeah, but instinct injury, I think about that very often when I'm just like looking at my own life as well.
I can think of so many examples, and I don't want to get too like conspiratorial or political on this podcast, although it's easy to sometimes lean in that direction. But there are so many times where we are sold an idea that goes against our instinct, right? Like, I don't know, we'll take something that's not super controversial, but like, oh, you have a headache, you should take medication. I remember I was working at a software company years ago, and I came in with a headache one time, and my boss, a wonderful, wonderful human, she was like, have some, whatever, Advil or Motrin or whatever she had in her thing. And she opens up her drawer, and she's just got like a pharmacy in her drawer at her desk, right? And it was like, no, thank you. And she looked at me like I had 9 heads. She was like, you said you have a headache? And I'm like, yeah. I didn't sleep great, and I'm probably dehydrated. She's like, yeah, but drugs. And I was like, but that doesn't make sense to me. Like, I know that it's just something is wrong with my body and I need to fix it. Why would I slap something on that's going to mask the problem? And I guess this is just how I was raised. I don't know. My mother is a little bit to blame for this mentality of mine. But I'm like, but we're so quick to just slap on a Band-Aid like some sort of medication, you know, oh, you have, you know, you can't sleep, take this kind of medication. You have some slight discomfort, take that medication. You don't want to experience the pain of birth, why don't you just get an epidural? It's not like there's a trophy for going all natural, right? Like there's all these just kind of automatic reactions societally that we have to the human condition, just being a person who is, you know, operating this body in this world. Like there are things that go with it, and we're just sold. And I say the word sold very intentionally because people are making money off of this. This is a marketing campaign, right? Like pharmacies and drug companies make tons of money because we, not you and I and many of the people listening, but we as a society have been sold this idea that, hey, if you have a discomfort, there's a medication that'll fix it, but fix is not a real fix, it's just a mask for the issue, right? And it takes a lot to sort of change someone's mind about that. Like, not as for some people, they're just like, of course I'm going to take a drug. Of course I'm just going to ask for the epidural as soon as I get to the hospital. Why would I want to suffer, right? And I just think that's very interesting. I'm sure you, having your background in the medical field, have a lot to say about this topic, but it's such an industry. There's so much money behind it, and it's really convincing.
It is very convincing, and I think it's convincing because many of us did not grow up being taught the tools of how to sit in discomfort and realize that there's nothing wrong with being uncomfortable. There's nothing wrong with it. It's, sensations. And, how you were comparing it to, I know you were comparing this to, of course, the medical system, but there's all these other ways, like social media scrolling, drinking alcohol, marijuana use. What is it all for? To feel comfortable and avoid pain. I'm also a Christian, and that definitely it's very much how I see the world. So just looking at my faith, I have a God that died for me, and being able to unite my suffering to his brings so much meaning. But even outside of that, even for people who don't have that kind of belief system, pain and suffering is the greatest catalyst for growth. I think about all of these situations in my life where I felt intense grief, pain, sadness, anger. And it's an invitation. It's really an invitation. And yeah, I'm thinking back on so many situations where I've experienced these intense emotions. And yeah, it's an invitation to growth, but also an invitation for me, anyway, what I found in my own journey, to surrender to something greater than myself. There is so little that I can actually control in my life. Yeah, but going along with, how medications and interventions are very much marketed to the customer, the patient, to avoid pain, there's also, I believe, as human beings, this incredible fear of death. So, yeah, I guess that also ties into what I was just saying about an invitation to surrender to something greater. Like life and death, these are things that we have absolutely no control over. And I think, just having the access that we do to, I guess, seemingly prolong life, seemingly reduce pain and suffering, I think it kind of feeds into this delusion that we do have control over it. But that's definitely God's business. It's not ours.
There are things you can control. You know what I mean? Because I agree with you. There are certain things that are outside of your control completely. And a lot of us find that uncomfortable to some degree or another. It's hard to confront something that is completely outside of your control. But what I always have done when I have been successful is realize that I can control my reaction. That I do have control over at all times. So like you were saying, there's this aversion to pain and suffering. Okay, so pain and suffering exists in this world, right? Some people have pain-free births. That hasn't been my experience. I actually was on the Pain-Free Birth podcast recently. For me, it was painful. That's the word I use for it. There is pain. But I learned, like what you're saying, like it was an invitation for me to become so much more than I realized I could be. With my first birth in particular, that was pain. That pain was unreal. My second was much easier and far less painful. My first was an intense amount of pain, but in the very same moment that I felt the highest level of pain I have felt in this life, in that exact same moment, I became tenfold, 100-fold I don't, like, some impossible, there's no math that can communicate how much of a better person I became in that moment. I gained control. I gained courage. I gained persistence, perseverance, and patience. All of this in like a split second. I switched, like you were talking about this portal of motherhood, right? I switched from whoever the heck I was before that moment into a mother. And not just like a woman who has a baby, right? But a woman who has a baby and has the confidence, I'm getting teary, and has the confidence of knowing that I'm going to do great and I'm going to lead this child into a wonderful life and I'm going to have what it takes to do this job, which up until that moment was horrifying. I didn't know. Like, I'm like, can I do this? I don't know. And in that moment of the most intense pain I've ever felt, I gained everything that I needed to know that I was going to succeed in this venture. And that has been unshakable. He's now a little over 4 years old, and I still feel that way. And I think about that moment and what I learned in that moment about myself. And I was like, had I been in a hospital setting, I'm pretty sure I would have ended up with a C-section because he was like stuck for a while and didn't want to move, and they would have called whatever. He was in the birth canal a long time. I'm pretty sure they would have scared me into a cesarean. And he would have been born, and he would have been healthy, and I would have been fine, and he would have been fine, and we would have recovered, but I would have never had that split second of a moment that was so defining for me, you know?
Oh my gosh, I have chills when you're talking about this. This is the heroine's journey of like going to the utter depths and conquering all of this, you know, fear, pain, suffering within, like experienced in your own body. And integrating that and coming out triumphant. It's like so powerful. It's so powerful. Oh my gosh. Oh,
Thank you. It was incredible. And so, like, you know, I try not to bash or tell people that they're wrong for choosing a hospital birth. I'm a doula. I serve women in hospitals all the time, but I always say, I implore you, I don't want to say I'm begging you because I'm not begging you, but I am telling you that given the option of a fully physiological birth, it's an experience that is unlike anything else. And is it hard? It's hard. It's not easy, but it is incredible and it is powerful. Like powerful, like not comparable to very many other things that I have experienced.
that's incredible. So you have 2 children now, right?
I do. Yeah.
Okay. Did you have your first in the hospital or no? I can't remember.
No.
They were both home births?
Both of them were. Yeah.
That's right. Okay. Wow. That's amazing. So this story that you just said, was it with your firstborn or your second? It was with your firstborn.
Yep.
That's right. Okay. This makes sense. Wow. I mean, it's so powerful. These are I haven't heard these kinds of stories about birth growing up. I did not hear empowering birth stories. And so every time I hear another one, it like heals part of my psyche.
It's amazing. And but to your point, that's a thing. Like societally, we're not told that birth is beautiful and powerful and incredible. We're told it's scary and painful and medical, and it should be sterile, and fluorescent lights are somehow involved, and cold metal instruments and all these things. And like, it's jarring because you're like, but bringing life into this world is like the utmost creation, right? Like, that is a very spiritual, creative, beautiful concept and activity.
And so
then it
intimate.
goes hand in hand. It is so intimate. And it allegedly, according to Hollywood or whatever, allegedly it goes hand in hand with sterile fluorescent lights, scary pain, fear, agony. And like, those two things just don't fit together, right? So I feel like this is the reason that I have this podcast, is to have these kinds of conversations, because when I was pregnant, I was looking for people to tell me these kinds of things. I was like, somebody help me make sense of this jarring inconsistency in my world. Like, it just doesn't fit. And so I went digging. I was like talking to all sorts of people. I was watching birth stories at home. I was like, I want to hear the bad and the ugly of home births too. Like, I want to hear the bad and the ugly of hospital births. I want to hear the good about both. Like, I need to see what really is. Like, I want to stop being sold this idea, and I want to just look for myself. But short of being there with a bunch of women giving birth, how do you do that? You know, thank goodness for the internet. The internet is great because we have access to these things, but the internet can also be used to sell you the very ideas that make birth this scary, terrifying topic, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it's very interesting to just like, I mean, thinking about it in like a psychological view, I guess, perspective. When we are primed, especially from a young age, that when you experience this thing, it's going to be extremely terrifying and painful. Mm-hmm. We're going to expect that if we get that messaging over and over and over and over again. Yeah. You're going, like, the messaging that it's going to be painful, terrifying, you're going to feel helpless. Yeah. And that's really why I think just the mindset work, and like what I brought up earlier, the identity shifting, uprooting these beliefs, really looking at them. Are they serving me? Are they not serving me? What is fact versus story? It's just so important to see, develop the skills to see reality as it is, and not as someone else told you it should look, especially when it comes to birth.
Agreed. It's easier said than done, you know, like we think I've talked to so many women about birth. Like, this is all I do, is I talk to women about pregnancy and about birth, and like, I'm in all these Facebook groups where people are discussing things, and the ideas that have been sold to us are so entrenched. Like the amount of crap I see people giving each other about, why didn't you just ask for the epidural? You do know you don't have to suffer, right? And I'm like, you're missing the point. You're missing the point. Like, no, you don't have to suffer. That's a true statement. You don't have to, right? Like, but it's almost like, not that you get to suffer, because that's not a way to sell it either, but like, there is so much more to it than that. And we forget to sell that point too, right? Like, I love sharing my birth stories because there is something so much beyond just the physical discomfort of pregnancy. Like, that was such a small part of the story. It's almost not even worth mentioning. It's interesting to people, so I tell people, but like, the things that my body did, the intuition that kicked in with my second one, like, the way that your body just does the thing if left to its own devices. And if the biggest challenge, as far as I'm concerned, in birth is getting out of your own way, which is what you're talking about. Like, figuring out, okay, who are you in relation to this activity? What are you in relation to this activity? Are you somebody who's afraid? Are you somebody who's gonna like put up your guard and your defenses? Are you gonna be thinking about everything that can go wrong? Like, these are all the things that you need to work on ahead of time. Learning to experience discomfort, learning how to breathe and how to regulate your own nervous system, and learning about hormones, and gaining the knowledge so that you have the confidence that, yeah, my body actually is built to do this. My body knows what to do. Like, this isn't some accidental thing. It was like very carefully designed to do literally this job. And it's incredible how meticulous the design is. It's endlessly fascinating, and every time I learn something new, I'm like, it's so cool, you know? Like, yeah, I could talk about the placenta for an entire episode, and just how absolutely beautiful and incredible it is. Like, I watch videos of people, like, you know, inspecting the placenta after it's born, and my poor husband, he's like, can't watch this. And I'm like, but it's so amazing. Like, look at this, you know? So I feel like that is something, and you know, people like you that are out there that are helping women one-on-one do this kind of work and get themselves into the state of mind where they're going to be out of their own way. You know, they're not going to be putting up all of the barriers, and then their body's just going to go ahead and do the thing that it's exactly designed to do and have this incredible experience and transformative, I would say, you know. And anyway, it's just amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely don't believe that, like, you know, women, like, shouldn't have fear when it comes to birth. Fear is going to come up.
Right.
It's okay. You know, just like, yeah, like you said, like developing those skills to like look at it, regulate, and make decisions from a regulated state. Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
yeah. I mean, in my first birth, I was scared. Like, fear was real, especially toward the end. I had this idea. I was like, I'm pretty sure I'm going to tear. And that suddenly, like, I was like, I'm not afraid of tearing. I'm not afraid of tearing. And then suddenly the moment came, and it was the moment of truth. And I was like, oh, yes, I am. Yep, I'm scared. And it took work in that moment, you know, to, like, come to grips with the fact that nobody else was going to do any of this for me, that it's just me, and it's up to me how I handle this and how am I going to handle it. And then it was like, all right, let's do the thing, you know, and yeah, I don't want to tell people don't be scared, because you're allowed to be scared. You just have to learn how to overcome it too, you know?
Right. Entirely. Yeah. What's coming to my mind right now, because I'm recalling how you were just talking about how our bodies are divinely designed to birth. Like, it really is a divine design. One of the mantras that just has stuck with me, one of my mentors, Emily Saldaya, she shared this, she used this mantra in her second birth, and it was, women in comas give birth. Women in comas give birth. And it's so true. So, like, oh yeah, I honestly think about that all the time. Women in comas give birth. it's
a really funny
wild
story about that. So
I want to hear it.
somebody in my birth class, which was doula led and not hospital led, and I'm very grateful for that. I went to a doula led birth class, and they brought up this fact, right? My husband was there with me at this birth class, and he's like, what? This is insane. Like, I had no idea, right? And so the joke became, okay, this is a joke. My husband is a wonderful person. He's like 5 stars, gold stars across the board as far as birth partners are concerned. Okay, I need to just put that disclaimer in there. But we
He's a good guy.
joke that I was like, if it gets too hard, just grab a skillet from the kitchen, whack me in the head, and then I'll just have the baby. And so we have a dark millennial sense of humor, so I'm sorry, but that was like the running joke, and it didn't come to that. We didn't have to do that, but
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. Yeah. It's a wild concept though.
right?
Yeah. Jeez.
So crazy. The body is amazing, and women are, I think the biggest fault that women have is that they don't give themselves enough credit.
Yep. I agree. I don't think I give myself enough credit.
I don't think I do either.
No.
And I think that it's something that we are somehow wired that way, and it's something that we need to overcome, because we seek approval, we seek permission, we seek, you know, validation. And I'm saying all these things because hello, me too, you know what I mean? I go on Facebook and I'm like, am I doing the right thing? I don't ask people. I've learned not to ask questions in mom groups, but I go and I search the internet and I look for other people who have asked the question that I want to ask, you know? And I'm like, did I make the right decision? Is it okay if I do this or if I don't that? You know, like, hard questions, you know, circumcision, vaccination, you know, breastfeeding, co-sleeping, sleep training, potty training. There's just endless amounts of decisions that we have to make as mothers. And at the end of the day, I've discovered that every time I go seek validation, all I find out is that I already know the answer. I already know. Like, I know what the right decision is. We had boys. Found out I was pregnant with a boy, and I'm like, oh, now we have to think about circumcision. I'm like, I hadn't had to think about that before. And immediately my first gut instincts was, there's no way that this is correct, right? But then I was like, well, everybody else does it, so let's do the research. So I do the research, and I do the research, and I ask the questions, and I talk to people, and I talk to people who did, and I talk to people who didn't, and finally I made myself watch, those like medical simulation videos of like, medical procedures being done. It wasn't even like a real actual video. It was like a simulation, AI type video. Mm-hmm. So I watched a simulation video of the procedure, and I was like, what? To a baby? And I was like, I don't care what everybody is saying. I don't care. I already know the answer. I knew the answer from the second that I asked the question. And I had to go down this road of whatever to validate my own confidence or my own certainty. And I'm like, I can't tell you how many times that's happened to me. And you'd think that I would learn my lesson, and it's getting better. I think that I'm getting better, but there's like this thing where we just want the approval or the validation of society or other women or the people around us or our families. And I'm like, you got to give yourself more credit than that, girl. You know. You are wise beyond words. You are so capable of making decisions and of living your life the right way. And it's not going to look the same as other people. But why do we need it to? Because no matter what you do, somebody out there is going to have an opinion about it. Somebody out there is going to be like, you're wrong, no matter what you do. Mm-hmm. So why are you looking for the approval of everybody else? If somebody out there is going to have an opinion about it, and just go and do the thing that you know you're going to do. You know what I mean? Like, anyway, it's just this thing where I'm like, I imagine that's a lot of what your work is, just convincing women that they actually are capable and powerful and not to doubt and question themselves, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't know. I don't know if I would like describe it as convincing, but, if I what I found are with like, my pretty seemingly hot takes. They're probably not hot takes to like many women. They may be extremely hot takes to others, but it's like they're with the women that like reach out to me for support. It's like there was something in the message that I was trying to share that day, the words that I used, and they use the word resonate. And I've really been looking at the way that I use social media. I don't really like to plan out my posts. I'm really cultivating a practice of like having it be like a more spiritual experience, which is not the way I used to use social media before. But oftentimes I'll just like wake up in the morning and be like, okay, God, if you want me, like whatever you want me to share with women across the world today, just inspire it. And the inspirations always come when I am not thinking about creating something. So I mean, they really do feel like inspiration. So, and I'm not saying that I'm like a prophetess or anything, but I do believe that God does use other people to speak to us. God uses other mouths to share messages that of freedom and of redemption that people might not have been open to before if it wasn't you saying it and they heard it from someone else. Mm-hmm. So yeah, maybe it does come off as convincing. Maybe it does. But also like there's also this part of me that's like, I just want to reveal what I've seen, and like it's, I don't know, almost like this warrior persona, like look at what's going on.
So you said something really interesting, and I don't usually pull out my phone in the middle of a podcast, but I'm gonna make an exception today if you give me just a moment, because so you You said that a lot of people reach out to you using the word, what you said resonates. That's literally what I said to you, and why we are having this conversation today is because you made a post and I was like, wow, that really resonates, right? And so I'm like, okay, so what's the definition of resonate, right? Because in a literal sense, resonate has to do with sound, right? It's hold on one second, I just lost it. Produce or be filled with a deep, full, reverberating sound. So reverberating means that it's bouncing, right? So here's my deep philosophical thought, and then we'll probably wrap it up for this episode. But it's bouncing. That means that you're saying words, the thoughts are probably already there. You know what I'm saying? Like, what you said in the post that resonated with me was something I was thinking and hadn't found the words to say. And I was like, yeah, that's what it is. And so I reached out to you and I was like, we should talk about this on my podcast. But with women that are pregnant and looking for your services, probably that thought, that idea, those words are already somewhere in their soul. And they just needed somebody to bounce it back. You know what I mean? Like that reverberation, that I don't know, call it a wavelength or whatever, you know, word you want to use for it. You hit something that they already had there, and they maybe just needed to find the words. And you brought those words to something that was already there. That's just my deep philosophical theory for the day. But I think there's something really powerful about that, because it just goes to show that, you're right, you're not convincing women. The women probably already know. You're just shining a light onto something that's already there.
Mm-hmm. I am so glad that you brought this up. I love definitions behind words and like all of that. I'm a huge Kelly Brogan fan. I don't know if you know who she is, but she talks about this concept of how does she say it? It's like widening the permission field. And what is meant by that is basically, and it's typically through embodying something. You're seeing another woman embody something that you didn't know was possible before. And then you see it exists in front of you in any type of way. You know, there's all different kinds of ways this could show up. But then you know what's possible, and you can't go back to how you were before, because and this all comes back to choice, like what we were talking about before. Free will, choice, knowing what's possible, reverberation. Yeah. And the full body, yes, it's like there's something I know when this happens with me, when I'm listening to other women talk, or men, they're talking about their experience, and there's something true in it. I mean, I can literally feel it in my heart. It's like this energetic, like reaching out, or like receiving. Maybe it's like a receiving, but there's a connection there, and there's what is the word? It's like a match in a way. Like I recognize something in this.
Yeah. It's amazing.
Really powerful.
It's so powerful. There's so much power behind all this. It's incredible. Yeah, man, I feel like I could talk to you for hours, and probably we should find another time to do another episode and pick something, something niche, something, specific and practical. But this was incredible. I'm so glad we had a chance to talk. Before we wrap up, I do want you to tell people where they can find you, any services that you offer, and how people can get a hold of you.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so the main way to contact me and see what I'm all about is Instagram. That is my main form of advertising, messaging, getting my words and thoughts out there. So my handle is at @inner_sanctum birthkeeping. And I do offer sovereign childbirth education. So this is much more holistic than the traditional childbirth education you're going to be getting in the hospital. It addresses tending to women's mind, body, soul, and spirit, and the identity reclamation of reclaiming your role as the authority in birth, because women are the authority, no one else. So join me there if you're interested.
I love that. I will put links below so people can find you easily. Thank you so much. This was such a pleasure.
Thank you. I had so much fun.
Me too. All right, everybody, join me in the next episode. I will see you then.